Welcome to Bled Talk, the podcast that helps you master the English language through everyday conversations. I'm your host, Samuel Bledsoe, and I'm thrilled to have you join us on this language learning journey. Whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced learner, Bled Talk is here to provide you with engaging and immersive content that will enhance your English skills in no time. Each episode will dive into a conversation between native English speakers, discussing interesting and relatable topics. You'll get to hear natural, authentic English being spoken, allowing you to pick up new vocabulary, idioms, and improve your pronunciation along the way. Bled Talk isn't just about language learning. It's about building connections and fostering a global community. We encourage you to participate by sending in your questions, topic suggestions, or even recording yourself speaking English. We'll feature some of your submissions in our episodes to create an interactive learning experience. So whether you're a student, a working professional, or simply someone who wants to expand their horizons, join us on Bled Talk, where learning English becomes an enjoyable journey. This is Samuel Bledsoe, and you're listening to Bled Talk. Let's get started. Welcome everybody to Bled Talk. Today is a little bit different. We're here personally with Matt Kennedy. He's a good friend that I met here in Curitiba, actually. He's native to the United States, but we both have wives that are from Brazil that were living here, and they knew each other after some time, and then we met each other and became good friends after that. So, Matt, could you tell us a little bit about you, where you're from?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Matt Kennedy. I'm from Columbia City, Indiana. And like you said, I'm married to a Brazilian, so we're here in Curitiba, kind of waiting out the whole visa process, going through that, because it even through marriage can take a while.
That's interesting, because a lot of people, they always think that, oh, if you're American and your wife is Brazilian, doesn't she automatically get the green card? Is that true, or?
It is not.
Yeah,
It'd be nice.
It's not.
It would be nice. No, unfortunately, the United States is pretty picky about the whole process. It has to be done just so. So it's quite a process as far as getting all the documents in order and the wait time and everything. It's a process.
Yeah, it takes quite the time. But for you to come to Brazil, was that a big process, you think, as well? Was it a difficult process?
Yeah. Initially there's a lot of kind of hurdles that you have to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
Right off the bat, obviously English, not speaking Portuguese, is the biggest one. Learning a new language is pretty tough. I also came speaking basically nothing, and then just being immersed and living with.
Yeah. So how explain that a little bit more, how you what was your strategy to learn Portuguese when you got here?
So I originally came to Brazil as a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the dudes who go around with a tie and a name tag and everything. So that is kind of what focused a lot of it. We talked to a lot of people, but right out the bat, I came to Brazil. I was kind of living with three other missionaries who were all Brazilians, and they didn't really speak English in varying degrees, but all very beginner. So it was a lot of just learning vocabulary, kind of getting grammar, getting constant feedback, but it's still pretty tough to learn a new language in general, let alone just being completely immersed.
Do you have any tips for anybody who might be learning Portuguese, or anybody who, is just learning English, or, like all of us who are probably listening, most of them are not native speakers. Do you have any tips for learning a language to kind of make it faster?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest things just for your mental health is to not put too much pressure on yourself, to be comfortable with the amount of progress, because there'll be a lot less progress. You'll find yourself forgetting the same word dozens of times before you finally get it locked in. You'll find that you can't fully express what you want to say as you would say it in your native language, and it's hard to just translate that. Well, the other thing is just to keep on learning. Everything that you can switch out, for the different language, you switch out. You take it one step at a time. You try to pick up new things and everywhere you go, and don't get complacent.
Right.
So, don't put too much pressure on yourself to learn a lot, but don't allow yourself to stop once you've gotten to a comfortable conversation ability with people.
Right. And try to be persistent with it. I tell my students all the time that I really don't think there's not a huge secret to learning English or really any language, because it's about how much time you spend practicing. It's about how much time you spend studying. And if you don't put in the time, you're not going to learn. All of these other courses, there's people who tell you, oh, you can be fluent in 6 months, or you can do this, or you can do that. You can, but if you have to put in the time to get there. You have to put in hundreds and hundreds of hours, thousands of hours to really feel fluent and comfortable and know that it's going to, you'll be able to speak the way you want to. So I think that's a really good tip, is to be persistent and know that you're going to make mistakes.
Absolutely.
Know that you're going to have issues. You're going to have problems that you need to fix. And so, you learned Portuguese, you were here as a missionary, and tell us a little bit, how did you meet your wife? What made you decide to leave the United States and come to Brazil to marry your wife?
Yeah. So when I was a missionary towards the end, I went home once the COVID pandemic started, because they sent all the Americans in Brazil home. So right around that time, about 2 months before, so before even hearing about COVID, obviously, is when I first met my wife, Kielis, where she was also a missionary. She was just there temporarily until she got a visa, because she was supposed to go to the United States. That didn't end up happening, obviously, because of COVID. But we kind of got to know each other. We'd see each other not very often, like once a week, maybe. And, just kind of got a friendship going. And then I went home, at which point I went back to college and working and stuff. And that's when we kind of started to really grow that connection. So we started dating, started talking every single day, kind of setting those plans for the future. And it was something that I kind of put the brakes on a little bit in the beginning. It was kind of her who made it happen, because I was a little hesitant, because I kind of expected there to be some difficulties if it were to go farther, with being from two different cultures, two different parts of the world, two different families with dynamics and totally different. So it's something that I was a little hesitant to really go for, but
Are you glad that she pushed you forward?
yeah, it's something that she often, teases me with, that if it weren't for her kind of pushing, then I wouldn't have, made any progress there. So I'm definitely glad. And I'm not to say that I didn't get all in, later on, but just in the very beginning, I was a little hesitant, because I actually have a brother who somewhat of a similar story. He met his wife when he was on a mission. He met her, a couple times on his mission, and then they started talking after. And she's from England, so they got married. But I've kind of seen a lot of their whole process of immigration and all these things, and so I kind of saw that, and I saw that it's pretty complicated and pretty tough. It's a kind of a strain, because she's close to her family, he's close to our family. And then I kept imagining, like, you take that and then you add the other layer of the language barrier. I think the culture is even more different, so it was something I was a little nervous about, for sure.
Yeah, and what and a lot of people, they probably have the question, and I'll respond to it as well. But what's it like being married to a Brazilian? Is it different? I know we both haven't been married to Americans, but we both dated in the United States. We both dated American women. And would you say that it's different, the type of relationship that you have?
Yeah, it's kind of a loaded question, because all women are completely different, but I think the culture definitely plays a big factor. Something in general that I've noticed, it seems, is that I feel like Americans tend to have a couple buffer layers between their emotions, whereas Brazilians, it's all on the surface. So she's a lot more, when she's affectionate, she's a lot more affectionate right off the bat. When she's mad, she doesn't kind of hold those feelings in. She just lets it out right off the bat, which I think is something that can be good, but it's something that, can be a learning process.
Well, and if you're not, and if you're not used to it, it can be interesting, because, like you said, I think at least in the United States, I think people are a lot more reserved with how they express their emotions. And so sometimes we don't get the full emotion from somebody, and we don't learn how to respond to that. Whereas, like you said, I think here, like Matt said, all women are different, all men are different, but in general, in the culture, here, they're a lot more expressive. Like you said, when they're affectionate, they're a lot more affectionate. When they're happy, they're very happy. When they're sad, they're very sad. And for us, sometimes it can be kind of in the middle, and it's a lot more monotone. I think I think a good word to use would be exciting. It's an exciting part of your life, and I love the fact that every day I have no idea what's next. There's no way to predict how it's going to be, and so it's different. It's a different culture, different type of thing. And speaking of culture, is there anything that was difficult for you to adapt to whenever you came to Brazil?
So yeah, after kind of, after I have a handle on the language, then as far as culture goes, that is a big part of it, having, being a lot more expressive, being a lot more open. Uh, Also, whenever you go to like, you meet someone or someone you already know and you go for like a handshake, but it's like if it's a man, you like a handshake and a hug. And if it's a woman, you do like the kiss on the cheek. It's something that to this day,
Yes.
I just feel kind of weird. I don't know like how, the right
You don't know
approach.
how much of a kiss on the cheek it needs to be,
Yeah, exactly.
because it's crazy. We don't do that. We don't give kisses to anybody that's not our significant other. And sometimes people give you a little, there's a little space between the cheek, and sometimes there's no space. Sometimes people actually kiss you on the cheek, and you don't know what to do. But you get used to it. You kind of learn. And still today, I've been in Brazil for 4 years, and I still don't know how to approach a kiss, because some people are uncomfortable with it too, and so you don't know how
Mhm.
far you can go. The type of, like you said, you give a handshake and maybe a little bit of a hug, but you don't know how much of a hug. You don't know those things, because here people can be very open, and people can also be a little closed.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I don't think I'll ever really get comfortable with. I guess, comfortable with, but I never really know what's the right level. And I guess it depends on the person, but something that I'm just not used to, you
Yeah, no,
know.
definitely. I agree with you. I think something else that I think is interesting, and I feel like we need to clarify. So here in Brazil, people are always talking about how Americans don't take showers. They think that we don't take showers, and we do. I mean, do you take showers?
I do, yeah.
I do
I take
too. I
showers.
take at least one or two per day. Sometimes you need an extra one, but something I've learned here, what I think is a little funny, is that people, when there's a problem, usually the solution is to take a shower. My wife, sometimes she'll wake up, she'll be like, "Oh, I'm tired. I'm gonna take a shower." I get that one, but then she'll be like, "Oh, I need energy. I'm gonna take a shower. I don't feel good. I'm gonna take a shower." I feel like somebody could say, "Hey, I broke my leg," and they'll be like, "Oh, just go take a shower. It'll feel better."
Yeah.
Taking a shower is the solution here, and if you don't take 4 or 5 showers a day, you're weird.
Yeah. Well, and so that's interesting. There's a lot of things that I think have subtle influences. So I think one of the big ones is like, nowhere here is there air conditioning in houses. I mean, there is, if you're upper middle class and above, then you might,
Yeah,
but for the most part, a lot of people don't have air conditioning. Um, Climate wise, it's usually a lot hotter. So I think that also has a play into it. Because like, if I'm in 80-degree heat all day, I don't have to be doing anything, but I will be sweaty in about 2 hours. So it makes sense to take 3 showers a day.
yeah,
But in the United States, when I'm sitting at my desk and I'm in air conditioning all day, by the end of the day, I can still smell my deodorant just fine, and I feel like I smell good, and I don't feel sweaty or sticky. I don't really feel like I need to take a shower.
yeah, yeah. And there are people in the United States that, like, I do know people that say, "Oh, it's too cold to take a shower," but when they say it's too cold, they're saying it's like -15, -20 degrees Fahrenheit, and they they can feel that it's really cold. And like you said, but they haven't sweated, they're not dirty. I think that's something in the United States. We take showers when we feel dirty, when we feel like we need to be clean. And here you take a shower regardless.
Yeah,
You
you
know,
do.
if you feel if you feel clean, you take a shower. If you're going to leave, you have to take a shower.
Mhm.
If you go buy bread, you have to take a shower. Which that kind of leads me to another thing. Um, when it comes to dressing up to go out, to go to a restaurant or something, um, how is it in the United States? How do we dress whenever we go to the grocery store, for example?
Yeah, I think it. It obviously depends on where you're going, but I think the threshold for what merits dressing up is definitely a lot higher in the United States. So, like, if I'm going to the grocery store just to pick up stuff, I don't really care what I'm going in. Go in pajamas and flip flops. But even like a lot of restaurants, anything fast food, I don't really care. I can come straight from basketball, be sweaty and gross and stinky, and still feel okay. Going and
Yeah.
ordering McDonald's, but there certainly seems like there's a lot more, not necessarily pressure, but it's just the norm for
Yeah.
whenever you leave the house, basically. Like,
Mm-hmm.
is my wife will do her makeup just to walk the dogs. I feel like that's something in my mind that's like,
They don't need to.
yeah.
I understand because I had a situation one time. I was going to fly back to the United States, and for those who don't know, flying back to the United States it's a long trip, especially when you don't live in any of the main cities,
Mm-hmm.
and so you have to take. We live in Curitiba, and so we fly from Curitiba to São Paulo, and then São Paulo to Miami or Houston or wherever, and then you fly from one of those cities to your next city. And so there's a lot of, you know, there's just a lot of travel and a lot of time. And you don't want to be in jeans and a nice shirt and all of these nice clothes and things because it's uncomfortable. I mean, we're talking 24, 28 hours of flight time, and you have to sit there and once again be sweaty, be uncomfortable, smell bad. So I went out and I was just wearing normal clothes. I was wearing gym shorts and a normal t-shirt. And my wife was very angry with me. She's like, "You can't travel looking like that. You need to dress up. You need to at least wear some pants or wear a nice shirt. Do something." And I thought that was so different. I was like, "Why?"
Yeah, so like in that whole trip, the cheaper you go, it seems like the longer your layovers and everything are, the more flights there is, obviously. So when I go cheap, it can be like, 36 hours that you're traveling. So the priority is obviously comfort. I don't really care what I look like because I know by the end, I won't, it doesn't matter what I was wearing, I will still feel this gross.
Yeah, no, definitely. And kind of moving on to a different thing. How did your family feel when you decided that you were going to move to Brazil and marry your wife?
Yeah, so that's something that I was pretty good about kind of having them involved, or at least my parents mainly having them involved with the whole conversation from the beginning. When Achilles and I started dating, kind of always talking through it with my parents. And for the most part, they were very supportive. Obviously, my mom would always highlight, the concerns of visa stuff and cultural stuff and
Yeah,
like,
she
where we're going to
do
live and all these type of things,
it.
which are obviously valid things. But yeah, for the most part, it was very supportive. So I didn't get any pushback.
Yeah,
So they were
yeah.
all happy,
And I think
excited to
yeah,
have,
a new daughter-in-law.
yeah, a new
Yeah.
daughter-in-law.
And what's crazy is I think that plays into more culture even more is that I talk to so many people here, and you talk to moms, and you tell them that you left and you haven't been back in a year, and we I don't talk to my mom every day. I talk to her. I try to talk to her once a week, but that doesn't always happen either. And but we're okay. We don't have any issues. My mom isn't super stressed because I'm not there and I'm not calling her all the time. And I think here it's a little different. The moms are a lot more attached to their sons, and because they always telling me they're like, I would never let my son marry someone who lives far away, or I would never be that far
Mhm.
from my son. And I think in the United States, it's a lot more acceptable. I think because something a lot of people have talked about before, but they always want to know if it's true. Is if in the United States, if it's true that our parents really do want us to move out as soon as we're 18 and kind of move forward. And I always say that it's not that they want us to move out, but
Mhm.
they want us to either go to college or, you can do a mission for a church or do something. They want you to be productive. And a lot of them don't want you to stay at home and do nothing. That's why I've met so many parents who they charge their children rent, because they obviously it's not a lot of money, but they're like, if you're going to live here, you need to pay
Yeah.
a little bit. You need to help because I always tell people, and this is, you can tell me if you have a different opinion, but I think the American version or the American vision of somebody of a successful child is one that can leave home and have their own place, their own car, pay their own bills, have their own family, a good job. And I think when parents have that, they're happy, and so they really encourage it.
Yeah, that's something it's been really interesting living abroad to kind of get an idea of what is the American dream. I think it's just that. Like, you can, at 18 years old, go out and kind of work hard, and put in the hours and have a successful life. Whereas in other parts of the country, even in Brazil, I've seen it quite a bit, it can be pretty tough. Even if you do everything right, sometimes just financially, it's not an option to leave your home until you get married, and then you have, two incomes to support a family and do all those kind of things. So it's like, go back to one of those, it's a lot of little things that kind of influence it, but I think it all boils down to that it's just a lot easier to be able to do that. And so that part becomes part of the culture. I feel like when people think of America, people especially who aren't from the United States, they think of like, what is the American dream? What is American culture? They think of, progress, and everyone wants to build more and more of their future because it's something that is relatively a lot easier to do in the United States, build wealth and grow like that. So it's something that's interesting that you say that, because I don't know, that's just what I think.
No, I agree with you. There's a lot of little things that play into it. It's not just, oh, they don't want to, or Americans are, they're really cold and they don't love their children. I don't think it's any of that. I think it's really just a culture that's been created since the beginning, really. And go ahead.
Yeah, because definitely it's something that it's very clear in the United States. Hard work pays off. So it doesn't really matter what you do. If you work hard at it, if you progress in it, it pays off. So it's something that is just like, it's something I took for granted. It's something like that. The whole American dream is something that you can just show up and work hard, and already be able to work toward buying a house and having a car and doing all these things that in other parts of the world, sometimes it takes years to save up for those kind of things, or it takes a miracle career.
Right. You get the job from this part of the world that pays a lot of money, and you can do that change. And I agree with you. I think, but I think that a lot of times as well, another part of the culture is that we're told to look for opportunity. I tell people that we're raised knowing that we need to find the best way. That's the whole. It's never enough. It's never enough for us to be satisfied. You can be happy with what you have, but we always need to find more. And because of that, I think that we sometimes have a drive to do so. And that's not everywhere where people teach that. I tell people all the time in Brazil is a great country. The economy is different, yes, and it has its difficulties, but it also has good benefits as well. And if you find the right thing to do, I always tell people, find something that you're really good at and use it. Do whatever you can, and you can be successful. There are success stories in Brazil. There are success stories in other countries.
Yeah.
And you may have to work harder than you do in the United States, but it is possible. And so I think, it's just in the United States, it happens a lot more often. It's more frequent because that's just something that's ingrained in us since the beginning. But yeah. And do you have any advice that you would give somebody if they were thinking about getting married to a Brazilian and coming to live in Brazil?
Yeah. Kind of based on this whole conversation, one of them is have an open mind, be expecting there to be a lot of different things that, expect the unexpected. There's going to be a lot of things that you didn't really realize are different. Like just daily life, there's a lot of stuff that, like, whether it's products that you have and food, it's all just different. As well as just figure out the best possible way to, support your family, support your growth. So like I kind of lucked out because I have a job from the United States here, and that's something that works pretty well. But even if not, speaking English here in Brazil is something that can be very valuable in any field, so whatever field you come from,
right,
you do the required courses or whatever to be certified or to be valuable in that field. And also speaking English, that's a good way to
absolutely
grow in that field.
I agree. Being prepared.
Yeah.
Because I know whoever it is that's thinking about getting married outside of the country, I think in any situation, not just for Brazil, know that it's going to be difficult,
Mm-hmm.
but it's worth it. Obviously, I love my wife and I love my son. I love my life and it's wonderful, but it's not easy. And I think sometimes we're so in love with somebody that we tend to be a little blind to all of the difficulties that may come. Specific things I would tell somebody if they're going to move to a different country is save as much money as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Have a backup, because when it comes to finances and you're in a different country, it's a different experience. It's not the same as being in the United States. So whatever you know how to do there, you can discard that. That's
Mm-hmm.
not something that may work. So if you're the person that's making somebody move to a different country, make sure that the other person knows that financially you both need to be prepared. Try to have work ready when you get there as well, because a lot of people, they forget finances when it comes to
Yeah.
relationships, and it's important. Another thing, like Matt said, being open-minded it's required. If you some people, when they talk about Americans, they think they're a little arrogant or ignorant, and I agree with them. There's a lot that don't know. They don't know what the world is like
Mm-hmm.
outside, and so if you have that mindset of, oh, I'm from the best country that ever existed, and we're better than you, you can forget that,
Mm-hmm.
because there's so many good things that you can learn outside of the United States that makes you think. It makes you go, I love my country. I always tell people I love my country, but I know that there's problems. And I know it even more because now I live outside. And it's just like Brazil. I love Brazil, but I know Brazil has problems.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really opened my mind to a more global view of people
Mm-hmm.
instead of just, oh, I'm from the United States.
Yeah. That's something that's like, I think in general, but especially in this circumstance, it's good to have positive mindset, because you can either have the mindset of change is bad and I want things to be as they are, which will limit you. But if you come with a mindset of like, this is different, like when I first came to Brazil, I had that experience, because I'm there for a positive reason. So it's something that a positive outlook just kind of came naturally. It's just like, this is different, looking to see how the Brazilian people are different, looking, obviously Brazil is a very beautiful country, and compared to the US, or at least where I live, it's kind of boring. There's a lot of cornfields and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily ugly, but it's just such a different landscape.
Yeah.
It's a different culture, trying a bunch of different foods, stuff that seems weird. Chicken hearts is one that I actually liked. Chicken feet, I did not, but both, I am glad I had that experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So just come with it, hoping to have a lot of new experiences, and you will. I know it'll be good. But if you come hoping to not have any change and just, be exactly as you were and remain unchanged, it's not going to be fun.
Yeah. It's kind of like what you're saying, be the person that shows up and wants to be changed by the experience. Don't be the person that goes expecting to change
Yeah.
other people. So yeah, I think that's great advice. Yeah. Do you have anything that you want to share with anybody else? Any other thoughts?
No, I think kind of just in summary, be prepared, be excited about it. Don't stop once you feel like you've made a certain level of progress or you're at a comfortable place. And not just in the language, culturally as well.
Yeah.
I I try to. It's kind of hard, when you have a daily routine. But my goal is, while we're here, because we're here for a relatively limited amount of time, to take in as much as I can. Have
Yeah.
experiences, meet people, go out and do stuff that I obviously won't be able to, whether it's traveling, whenever possible. But just in general, try different foods, try different experiences. Just try to always be progressing.
No, that's good. Excellent. Very good. Well, I think that's about all the time that we have today. We've covered pretty much everything. Matt, I want to thank you for coming and talking. I hope that you'll make more appearances, and hopefully everybody else will continue to ask questions, make suggestions, let us know what you want to know, because we're not afraid to give you the answer that you need. So thank you, Matt, for the experience. This is Bled Talk, and we're so grateful for all of you. Please don't forget to follow us, and don't forget to to ask and be attentive listeners. You're going to learn a lot of English. There's a lot of vocabulary and idioms in every episode. So you guys are doing great. We love you. Have a good night or have a good day wherever you are, and have a good week. Stay safe. See you later. Bye. Thank you for listening to Bled Talk. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us for more content. We are on all of the popular podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcast, and we're even on YouTube. Don't forget to send in your questions and your suggestions. Thank you once again, and have a great day.